There are people whom the enemy doesn't fully understand their purpose, but is already working against them. This isn't because they have already achieved great things, but simply because they are destined for something greater, and the heavenly realm has important plans for them. In God's kingdom, there is what we call elected grace. This refers to individuals set apart for a unique mission. God loves everyone, but it's important to realize that He marks some for a distinct purpose. Throughout biblical history, we find examples of people called by God to fulfill something specific. In various passages, we see that among a large family, God chooses one to carry a special mission. This does not diminish the importance of others, but it demonstrates that there is a divine plan that manifests through certain people. David, for instance, in one of his reflections, in Psalm 139 verse 14, declared, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." This phrase is not a direct declaration from God in the scriptures, but a personal revelation David received. He recognized that his existence and purpose were reasons to praise. I am uniquely and wonderfully created. If we analyze the term wonderfully, it comes from a Hebrew root that, besides meaning honor and reverence, can also be understood as someone marked by something special. David understood that his connection with God went beyond the ordinary. Knowing that you are marked for something, great feats can be accomplished. You might be someone who prays for your family with power and authority, not because of automatic privilege, but because you have been chosen for that. God may hear your intercession, not just because He desires, but because you have been set apart to bear this special responsibility. Sign 1. The enemy recognizes who you are. When you are chosen by God, a spiritual battle begins at levels you may not immediately perceive. The enemy does not wait for you to start accomplishing great deeds or become fully aware of your calling. He starts acting even before you fully understand your mission. This happens because the spiritual realm is constantly watching, and the devil quickly recognizes those who have been set apart by God for specific purposes. Imagine an invisible battle around you. The heavens watch your growth, your awakening to God's call, while the enemy also stays alert, looking for ways to frustrate God's plans for your life. He knows that if you succeed in fulfilling your purpose, many other lives will be impacted, many chains will be broken, and great transformations will occur. That's why attacks begin long before you even understand what is happening. For example, think of Joseph, Jacob's son. From a young age, he had prophetic dreams that indicated his future greatness. However, even before any of these dreams came true, his brothers, driven by envy, conspired against him. He was thrown into a pit and sold as a slave. What was happening there? The enemy was already acting to try to destroy God's plan for Joseph's life. Even before Joseph occupied his position of authority in Egypt, he faced great trials and betrayals. What we learn from Joseph's story is that when the enemy sees the greatness that is to come, he does everything to prevent you from reaching that position. He uses people around you, difficult circumstances, and even your own thoughts to discourage you and make you give up your path. And this is not uncommon. It happens to many people who are marked by God. The adversities we face are often a reflection of the importance of our calling. It's important to realize that these attacks, though painful, are confirmation that you are on the right path. The enemy is not concerned with people who have no spiritual impact. If you are facing spiritual difficulties, it's a sign that the devil recognizes what God is about to do through you. He knows you carry a heavenly mark, and that if you continue on the path God has prepared, great things will happen. Moreover, spiritual attacks can manifest in various ways, from mental and emotional oppression to physical problems and broken relationships. The enemy knows that if he can destabilize your mind or heart, it will be easier to stop you from fulfilling your mission. However, you need to remember that these attacks are not a sign of defeat. In fact, they are evidence that you are a threat to the kingdom of darkness. And, as Scripture reminds us, greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. 1 John 4:4. Every adversity, every struggle you face, is part of the spiritual strengthening process. God allows you to go through these challenges, not to destroy you, but to refine you. Just as gold is purified in fire, you too are being molded to become the person God has called you to be. Therefore, the first sign that you have been marked by God is the enemy's recognition and his attacks against you. But remember, these attacks are only temporary. God has already provided your deliverance. Sign 2. Supernatural protection. God's hand that guards you. The second sign that indicates you have been marked by God is the supernatural protection that surrounds you. Those who are set apart by God are constantly under His watch. This does not mean you will never face problems, but it means that even in the midst of difficulties, you will be preserved and protected in extraordinary ways. Let's begin with an essential concept. Divine protection is often invisible to our eyes. You may be living your life without realizing how much God is actively guarding you. Many times we are delivered from dangerous situations without even knowing. An accident avoided by seconds, a serious illness that never manifested, or a conspiracy that was never carried out. All these are evidence that God's protection is operating in your life. In David's case, when he ate the consecrated bread in the temple, he was technically violating one of the most sacred laws of the Old Testament. According to Mosaic law, only the priests were allowed to eat the bread of the presence, and anyone else who did so should be punished with death. However, David not only ate that bread, but also shared it with his men, and no one was punished. This was not by chance, but a clear example of God's supernatural protection over him. This story teaches us that when you are marked by God, divine protection goes beyond natural laws or human expectations. God directly intervenes in your life to ensure you are preserved to fulfill His purpose. Even in situations where, by human logic, you should have failed or even died, God's hand guards and delivers you. Another powerful example of supernatural protection is found in the life of Daniel. When he was thrown into the lion's den for refusing to stop praying to God, he should have been devoured immediately. However, God sent His angel to shut the lions' mouths, and Daniel came out unharmed. Once again, we see that divine protection knows no limits. When you are marked by God, even the fiercest creatures are unable to harm you. You might be asking, why would God protect me so extraordinarily? The answer lies in the mark of God on your life. Those who are set apart by Him carry such an important purpose that God will not allow anything to destroy them before that purpose is fulfilled. This does not mean you will never face challenges or moments of danger, but it means that in each of those moments, God will be there to protect you. God's protection manifests in many ways. Sometimes it's a sudden deliverance from imminent danger. Other times, it's the inexplicable peace you feel amidst chaos. God not only protects you physically, but also guards you mentally and emotionally. In situations that could lead you to despair, God gives you the strength to continue, assuring you that He is in control. Moreover, divine protection often extends to those around you. If you are marked by God, those who walk alongside you can also experience God's protective grace. This reminds us of the story of Noah, who was called to build the ark. Although the ark was the means of salvation for Noah, his entire family was saved with him. Similarly, God's protection over your life can influence those close to you, saving them from dangers they aren't even aware of. This supernatural protection is also evident in moments of conspiracy. Maybe people have plotted to harm you, spread lies about you, or conspired against your success. However, because of God's mark, those plans never come to fruition. God blocks these attacks before they can reach you. And even when it seems like everything is falling apart, He is working in your favor. Therefore, the second sign that you have been marked by God is the way He supernaturally protects you. Whether in moments of physical, emotional, or spiritual danger, God is always guarding you, ensuring that nothing prevents you from fulfilling the purpose for which you were called. Remember, God's protection is constant and unchanging. Even when you don't realize it, He is acting to preserve you. Sign 3. Periods of isolation. The desert before the promise. The third sign that you have been marked by God is that at some point in your journey, you will go through periods of isolation. This is one of the most challenging signs for those set apart by God, because isolation can be misunderstood. Often we confuse isolation with rejection or abandonment, but in reality, it is an essential time of preparation for the fulfillment of God's purpose in your life. In the Bible, we see that many prominent figures went through seasons of isolation before being launched into their public callings. Think of Moses, who spent 40 years in the desert before being called to lead the people of Israel, or Elijah, who hid in a cave before continuing his prophetic ministry. Even Jesus, the Son of God, spent 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, being tempted and tested before starting his earthly ministry. The desert, or isolation, is a fundamental part of the process of shaping those who have been marked by God. But why does God allow us to go through this isolation? The answer lies in the nature of divine purpose. The desert, or period of separation, serves to shape us in a profound way. God uses this time to work on areas of our lives that need refinement before we can fully step into the calling He has prepared for us. It is during isolation that God empowers us, provides clarity, and reveals aspects of our identity that we wouldn't understand amidst the distractions of daily life. Isolation is, in fact, a place of encounter with God, where He forms and prepares us for great things. Many people think that isolation is a sign that something is wrong or that God has forgotten them. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Isolation is a sign that God is deeply investing in your life, separating you from external influences so He can speak directly to your heart. It's in this space of solitude that you begin to discern the things that truly matter. God quiets the noise around you so you can hear His voice more clearly. This process of isolation can be painful because it involves giving up certain comforts and depending on God at a deeper level. You may feel excluded, misunderstood, or even rejected by those around you. It might seem like no one understands what you're going through. And often the people around you won't see what God is doing in your life during this time. They may not understand why you've distanced yourself, or why certain doors seem to be closing, but God is calling you to something greater. However, it's essential to understand that this isolation is not permanent. It is temporary and part of a cycle of spiritual growth. During this time, God is building something powerful within you. He is strengthening your spirit, teaching you patience, and developing an unshakable trust in Him. Just as gold is refined in the fire, you are being molded for something grand, and the period of isolation is a crucial step in this process. Additionally, isolation is where you learn to depend exclusively on God. When you're surrounded by people or busy with daily activities, it's easy to get distracted and rely on human resources. However, when God sets you apart for this time of preparation, He is teaching you to trust entirely in Him. You begin to understand that your strength, provision, and direction come directly from God, not from the circumstances around you. This time of total dependence on God is essential for the fulfillment of your calling. It's also important to note that often isolation occurs right after you've been anointed or recognized for your calling. This can seem confusing at first. After all, if God has anointed or called you for something great, why would He allow you to go through a period of solitude? But this is where the secret lies. Before sending someone, God must prepare them deeply. He doesn't send unprepared warriors into battle. He first strengthens, equips, and instructs so that when the time is right, you are fully ready to accomplish what you were designated to do. A clear example of this is the story of David. As a young man, he was anointed by Samuel to be the next king of Israel. However, after this anointing, he didn't immediately ascend to the throne. Instead, he spent years fleeing from Saul and living in caves. It was a time of great isolation and trial for David, but it was also during this time that he learned to trust completely in God and developed the skills he would need as a king. The period of isolation was essential in shaping David's character and preparing him for his future leadership. So if you're going through a time of isolation, understand that it is a clear sign that God is preparing you for something greater. He is setting you apart, not to punish you, but to equip you for what is coming. This time of solitude and separation may be painful, but it is necessary for your growth and the fulfillment of your calling. Trust the process and know that God is with you every step of the way. Sign 4. Dreams and visions. God's direct communication. Another powerful sign that you have been marked by God is how He communicates directly with you through dreams and visions. Since biblical times, God has used dreams and visions to speak to His people, revealing plans, warnings, and confirmations about the future. And today, He continues to use these means to communicate with those He has set apart for special purposes. When you are marked by God, it's common for Him to begin revealing Himself to you in supernatural ways. You may have dreams that seem more real than life itself, or visions that leave you with a deep sense that something significant is about to happen. These dreams and visions are often one of the main signs that God is moving powerfully in your life. They can offer guidance, warn you of future dangers, or even give you a glimpse of the grand purpose God has in store for you. Consider the example of Joseph, the dreamer. From a young age, God spoke to Joseph through dreams. In one of his dreams, he saw sheaves of grain bowing down to his, symbolizing that his brothers would one day bow before him. Although his brothers didn't understand and even mocked him, Joseph understood that God was revealing something important about his future. Through these dreams, God was showing Joseph that he would be placed in a position of authority and responsibility. However, the path to fulfilling this dream wasn't easy. Joseph faced a series of challenges, including being sold into slavery, being falsely accused, and being imprisoned. Yet he never lost sight of the dreams God had given him. Joseph's dreams were more than just manifestations of the unconscious. They were divine revelations that helped him stay firm through adversity. If you have been receiving dreams or visions that seem intensely significant, this could be a sign that God is communicating directly with you. Perhaps you've dreamed of helping people in need, or maybe you've seen yourself in a position of authority, leading others. These dreams should not be dismissed as mere coincidence. Often, God speaks to us through symbolic images in our dreams, and it's up to us to seek discernment to understand what He is telling us. In addition, there is another important aspect to the dreams and visions you may be having. They not only reveal what God is doing in your life, but can also give you instructions on what you should do in certain situations. Maybe God is giving you a strategy or plan through a dream, or perhaps He is showing you something that needs correction in your life. These dreams and visions are a direct channel of communication between you and God, and it is essential that you pay attention to them. The Bible tells us in Job 33:14-16 that God speaks to people through dreams. For God does speak, now one way, now another, though no one perceives it. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they slumber in their beds, He may speak in their ears and terrify them with warnings. This shows us that often God chooses to speak to us during sleep, because it is when we are most receptive to His voice. During the day we are busy with our activities, distracted by various responsibilities. But at night, when we are at rest, He can speak to us more clearly. Therefore, if you have been having recurring or meaningful dreams or visions, do not ignore them. Pray about them, and ask God to give you discernment and understanding about what He is trying to reveal to you. These dreams may be the key to unlocking something important in your spiritual journey. Moreover, dreams and visions can also serve as confirmation that you are on the right path. You might be questioning whether you were truly called for a specific purpose, or whether you are making the right decisions. God can use a dream or vision to show you that He is with you and that you are heading in the right direction. He may confirm His promises and give you the confidence that, despite the obstacles, you are exactly where you need to be. Sign 5. Confirmations from others. God uses others to affirm your calling. One of the most interesting signs that you have been marked by God is the way He uses other people to confirm your calling. Sometimes, even before you are fully aware of your mission, God begins sending people to tell you things you may not be ready to hear or accept. These confirmations can come from people close to you, such as family and friends, but they can also come from complete strangers, used by God to affirm you. These confirmations are important because they often serve as reminders of what God is doing in your life, especially in moments of doubt. You might be going through a period where you question your worth, your ability, or even whether God has truly chosen you for a specific mission. And then suddenly, someone crosses your path, and without knowing anything about what's happening in your life, says something that speaks directly to your heart. This kind of experience is common for those marked by God. There are many ways these confirmations can occur. It can be through a prophetic word, where someone feels in the spirit that they need to tell you something. It can be through a casual conversation, where someone mentions something that deeply resonates with what you're experiencing at the moment. Or it can be through a sermon, a message, or even a quote in a book that seems written specifically for you. These confirmations are like whispers from God, reminding you that He is in control and that you are on the right path. What's interesting about these confirmations is that they often come in moments when you are about to give up or in periods of great doubt. God, in His infinite wisdom, knows exactly when you need encouragement, and He uses these people to remind you of His purpose. You may have doubts about your calling, but when someone tells you something that you know could only have come from God, it renews your faith and determination to keep going. A classic biblical example of confirmation is the life of Samuel. When young Samuel was serving the priest Eli, he heard God's voice for the first time during the night, but didn't recognize that it was God speaking to him. It was Eli who helped him understand that what he was hearing was indeed the voice of God. Likewise, God can use people in your life to help you discern His voice and guide you toward your destiny. These confirmations from others can be a great source of encouragement, especially when you're in a moment of uncertainty. Sometimes God speaks through others because He knows that, in our human weakness, we may not trust our own perception or discernment. He uses these external voices to reaffirm what he has already placed within us. It's as if he is saying, "I see you, I know your path, and I am with you." Moreover, these confirmations can also be a way for God to remind you of promises he made in the past. Perhaps you received a promise from God years ago, but over time, you began to doubt its fulfillment. And then suddenly, someone appears, and without knowing anything about that promise, speaks exactly about it. This is God telling you, "I have not forgotten my word. What I promised, I will fulfill." These confirmations can come from various sources: spiritual leaders, friends, co-workers, or even strangers. The important thing is to be attentive to them and discern when God is using someone to speak directly to your heart. Often, these confirmations come unexpectedly, and it's important that you remain open to receiving them. Do not disregard when someone says something that resonates with what you already feel in your spirit. God uses the people around us to guide, encourage, and affirm us in our purpose. In conclusion, these confirmations are signs that you have been marked by God. If you have been receiving words or signs from others that confirm what God has been speaking to you, take it as a clear sign that you are marked by Him. These confirmations are gifts from God to help you move forward with confidence, knowing that He is guiding every step you take. Similarly, when you are marked by God, you may experience supernatural encounters that transform your perspective and your life's direction. These encounters serve as clear signs that God is with you and that His plans for you are unfolding. They also give you a sense of awe and reverence, reminding you of God's greatness and His desire to involve you in His divine purpose. Some supernatural encounters might be more subtle than others. They could come as a deep, unexplainable peace in a moment of chaos, or as a strong conviction during prayer that gives you clarity about a decision. They might also come through angelic protection in a moment of danger, or through a miraculous provision when you are in need. Whatever the form, these encounters remind you that God's supernatural power is working in your life in ways beyond what you can see or understand. But remember, the primary reason for these supernatural encounters is to equip you for your calling. God never reveals Himself without a purpose. These moments are designed to build your faith, give you courage, and confirm that you are on the right path, even when the journey ahead looks difficult. They are divine interventions meant to strengthen your resolve, especially when facing spiritual battles or major decisions in your life. All of these signs, spiritual attacks, supernatural protection, periods of isolation, dreams and visions, confirmations from others, and supernatural encounters, are clear indicators that you are marked by God. From the beginning, your life has been wrapped in divine purpose, and each of these signs serves as a reminder that something great is reserved for you. The mark of God on your life is a seal of love, protection, and a calling greater than you can imagine. Even in times of hardship, struggle, and isolation, know that you are never alone. God is by your side, guiding every step, protecting you from dangers you may not even perceive. He is working behind the scenes, taking care of the details, and strengthening you, so that when the time comes, you will blossom in your purpose. Let every confirmation, every dream, and every supernatural experience be a beacon that lights the path of your life, constantly reminding you that you have been chosen for a reason. God has set you apart, marked you for something extraordinary, and He will not give up until His plan for your life is fulfilled. So, move forward with confidence, knowing that the mark of God on your life is proof that you were created to shine, to be an instrument of light, hope, and transformation in the world. May divine grace accompany you And may you always remember, you are marked by God, chosen, loved, and protected. And nothing can change that. If these words have spoken to your heart, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss more messages like this. God has great things in store for you. Amen.